think people always trickle in a little late. Well, we're gonna get started. And as we're gonna have a Q&A at the end, I mean, it's kind of, whenever we do this, it's kind of a relaxed atmosphere, but feel free to ask questions during as well. If I haven't met you, I'm Kelly Delaney. I'm the Director of Development at the Drupal Association. And this is Tim Doyle, the CEO. Let's get started. So a few things we're going to do, introductions. We're going to talk about the Enhanced Drupal Certified Partner Program, some things that went into effect April 1st, what the eligibility looks like, how the changes have changed on the Drupal.org. We'll show you Drupal.org. A little bit of statistics on breakdown of where certified partners are located, and then just there's a lot of DrupalCon stuff coming up. This is your staff that you typically talk to at Drupal Association about partnerships. Tim Doyle, myself, Yitka Pilar is based in Florida. I'm based here in Portland, so thank you all for coming to my hometown. It really takes the edge off DrupalCon when you don't have to travel. It's nice. And Tim and our fulfillment coordinator, who's often reaching out about benefits and things like that. So Drupal Certified Partner had some enhancements that launched April 1st that you may or may not have heard about. Tim, do you want to talk about some of the goals of the Certified Partner Program?
Sure.
Can you see? You can stand here too and look at my slides.
There, or?
Yeah, well, if you have to remind yourself.
No,
you're
I
good?
have it memorized.
Good.
I have it memorized.
Go for it.
I'm not going to read the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Look, I've been on the Drupal Association about a year and a half. And the first 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, I spent a lot of time listening about what the needs are for the Drupal project, the Drupal community, what tools and resources the DA had at its disposal, and what it did not. Is it not? Oh. My background is not in audio-visual tech. I apologize. Thank you, Owen. So the first 9 months was a lot of listening. In the last 9 months, well, then the board said, we want you to do something. So the last 9 months have been spent doing something. And key and foundational to that is enhancing our Drupal Certified Partner Program to focus on what I commonly call makers. So we amended the program, and the goal from an association standpoint, and I come from an association background, is to differentiate those companies that are contributing back at a sustainable level that can keep the project moving forward, can keep it secure, can keep it readily available to anyone, anywhere in the world. And that's what I take away is the DA's most primary role is to make sure Drupal is available free of charge to anyone, anywhere in the world. So the changes to the DCP program were meant to focus on makers, to promote to give companies an incentive to have a good and strong culture of contribution back to the project, and then internally for the DA and to carry out our responsibilities to give us a sustainable revenue source that's reliable, where each partner can give a little bit, hopefully commensurate with the size of your organization. That is basically a cost of doing business. If you're an agency that uses Drupal and earns revenue off Drupal, then you give a little bit back to make sure that Drupal's there, secure, free, etc. And it gives us the ability to have stable income, not based on events, so that we can invest those dollars back in the community. And that's really the heart and soul of the reason for the changes to the program. Technically, we looked at, we'll look at this. So when I looked at what we have 2,200 companies that had accounts on D.org. And we looked at numbers for 2023, 591 of those, or about 25%, contributed anything in last year. So we have 75% didn't contribute anything, 25% contributed something, maybe one credit or one thing. Of those, we had, when we ran the numbers roughly at the end of 2023, 82 were certified partners, and 82 contributed the lion's share of the contributions. So my main goal with this program is to take that 82 and expand it, at least double. The board had set a goal of going to 106. What we find is we're going to easily achieve that, and we also think that's probably, at this point, that was a year ago, that's too modest now. We want to double that number to keep Drupal an independent open source, what I think is one of the largest independent open source communities in the world, right? Independent. not controlled by one large company, but everyone gives a little bit, and then we can keep it independent. And so that little blue circle is a circle we want to grow. And we're doing that by the changes that we're making to the DCP program.
I have a little to give you. This is very basic, but I wanted to show people how to check their contributions. Sometimes that's always someone's like, we contribute, I don't know how much, so a lot of you might not know how to do this. Here we go. So you're on your marketplace profile. Only the owner can do this of the marketplace profile. If you have a question of who the owner is, let me know, and we can switch it. But if you go to your owner tools, this is where you'll find how many credits you have. Get there. There we go. Okay. So this is, Bati gave me permission to use 1X's. This is like kind of old too, but they have 1,500 credits. About that, it'll say what tier you qualify for. This is recorded. I'm kind of scrolling quickly, but it will say all the things that you have that you're contributing to, your contributor roles, your events, and so that's how you. If your number right there is above 150, then you are qualified to be a certified partner. So just a little basic, quick way to check that. Okay, again, so the account owner of your profile, only one user can check it. If you need to check who owns your profile, you can email Yika or I, and we can change it for you and help you make that. Sometimes organizations have like one user for their organization. That's like at Drupal Association, and everybody logs in. So that's another way you could do it.
And I think what you'll see, and the reason that's the number one question we're getting, I believe, as we've improved the program and people are going to their profile, they may forget who their profile contact is. So you're going to see more and more resources devoted to helping you understand what it means to be a DCP, what the benefits are, how to access those benefits. We want you to use those benefits. We want you to use the profile as a tool to represent your company's commitment to Drupal. What you'll see on our end is beginning to market the new Drupal Certified Partner Program. That 2,200 that we had on the site as of March 30th of this year and April 1st, when we converted to the new program, that went down to under 90. We've added some, and we're up above 90 now in a number of DCPs. Two things I want to go over. Am I going over this slide?
Yes.
Okay, good. Two things I want to go over is the one thing we did was to take money out of the equation in terms of driving your company's profile up or down the marketplace. And we roughly want Drupal certified partners to make a sponsorship of the Drupal Association at an amount that's commensurate with your company size. The idea of looking at financials and coming up with a percentage seemed a little bit invasive, so we took a pretty rough, high-level number of employees, which were based on number of employees roughly based on the size of your company, and we come up with a sponsorship amount that's tied to that, and that's what you pay every year to be in the program. Sorry, the slide before was about credits. Mm-hmm. I started down that path and I went the other way. So what will determine your place on the marketplace and your ranking will be solely the credits you have through the system. Okay, under the old system, you could make a bigger donation and drive up. That's gone. And you can see when the program was launched in 2021 to 22 and to today, there's been this slow increasing in order to drive more contribution back to the project. But we kept the bronze level, the entry level at 150, 50 and 150, we kept it there because we want to get companies in at least in the door. We hope no matter the size of your company or the amount of commitment amount of your business devoted to Drupal, 150 is kind of a minimum to get in. What we expect from this is increased contributions to the project, and if you're in the Dries note, the star shot, that will help us hopefully give you an incentive or give certain companies incentives to say, hey, yeah, we want to drive up here or we want to get into the DCP program. We're going to help out with star shot, earn those credits, and get into the DCP program. So we will evaluate these every year or two, but I don't see these increasing in the near future. We hope these are the rules that are in place now. Every company that is currently a DCP will renew by March 30th of next year. And so at that point, the program will be fully implemented. So I don't see any of these things changing, certainly that first 12 months. and we'll talk a little bit later on about how we're doing with numbers.
But a couple success stories about this, like how maybe it immediately helped. So an organization I like to call out, Leslie, is about Redfin. So Redfin has like under 5 employees, or I can't remember, but they had so many contribution credits, they could qualify for something like gold or platinum, but for them to pay, like a small organization to pay 15,000 plus was not like available to them. And so based on this, if they can pay at their level of how many employees they have, they just sheer contribution went up to, I think they're platinum or gold, so that, because that's what they're contributing. So it's no longer tied to the annual thing. And then Previous Next, that was another one, they are the only top tier right now. Before they were, based on their level, they were paying what, especially with like Australian rates, they were paying to be platinum, but even though they qualified, they have like the second most credits maybe in all of them, maybe next to Aqua. I honestly have to check. But now under the new plan, they have over 12,000 credits, and so they're top tier right now. And it's a smaller company that's able to be top tier. Okay, and then, changes to the marketplace and stuff that's changing. So now I'm gonna exit and go to the marketplace. One of the largest changes we made with the certified partner program is that the marketplace is only for certified partners. Internally, we're still calling it a marketplace, but externally, we're trying to get it branded like this is where people go to find partners. And so this list has 25 organizations on each page, and there's only 4 now. And before, there used to be, out of 2,000, there was hundreds of pages. So there is a place for, organizations still need to have a marketplace profile in order to contribute code, and there is still a place that they can be found, but it's not under find an agency. Down here it says all organizations, you can go to them. But also you'll notice we've kind of designed the front to make it more appealing to end users who come on. So the badge is still there, but the case studies were what we thought that organizations would find most helpful to see. Issue credits are listed there, and then we have some phase 2s and phase 3s that we're working on. But FYI, if you ever want to change the case study that you have listed, it will list the first 5. Just go edit it and like update it to the current date. So it lists the case studies that you last posted. So a little hack there. And if you want to change your description, you go into your marketplace profile and edit is what you do there.
And we'll take feedback. Our goal there is that presents information that's of interest, as Kelly said, to folks outside the community who may be looking to work with the Drupal agency, yes. To universities, governments, whoever they might be. So if there's information that you think is valuable for you to have on there for your company, let us know. This is an evolving process for us to say how do we best highlight those companies that are certified partners.
All right, we just talked about marketplace. So a little updates on how things are broken out. Since a year ago we had 150 to 170, including members and certified partners, organization members. And since we've launched this, it's been really exciting. In August, I think we had 43 certified partners. In December of 2023, we had 75, and now we have 93. So organizations are pretty excited, and it's kind of just getting the word out there. And we are hoping that we heard some anecdotal things about Canada. Their government, for something specific, said, well, we will only take certified partners. And we were like, well, how do that? Whoa, okay. So that's a hope that more industries take up.
Yes, as the DA steps up its marketing activities, that will be one of the things that we will be doing. We'll be marketing this list now because we can stand behind this list as certified partners as opposed to just anyone that has an account on D.org. We still have that list, and anyone can go and find out the big circle, what companies are on D.org with an account. But we're able now to get the word out to prospective governments, universities, what have you, to say, hey, if you're considering Drupal, you should work with a certified partner because they've made a commitment back to the community. They have a track record of contribution to support Drupal.
And when we were at DrupalCon Lille, Yitka did this presentation, and so we were always kind of like counting how many European versus, because those are the largest markets, oh wait, let's see, here it is. Okay, Europe versus United States certified partners, and in Lille in September, I think that Europe had us by a lot, the US. Anyway, United States is coming back with their certified partners.
We put this up here to, come on, America, come on. Don't let Europe get ahead.
Yeah, Canada's in there. So that's kind of how the pie.
Yeah, and I'll say on this one, so I went to, we are looking at this as a global, obviously a global, and we have a lot of impact on North America and Europe. But I was lucky enough to go to Drupal South a month ago and spend time in Singapore and India. And my goal, and if you were at the Trees Note, you heard about DrupalCon Singapore. So I hope to grow this globally and not just in those two markets. And again, to keep us independent, if we get a lot of companies that can give a modest amount, we can have the sustainable revenues we need to keep Drupal innovative and moving forward and keep it independent. So I hope in a future year or two, you'll see even more wedges on this pie. Question?
Question on so for those markets, are you adjusting the amount to be commensurate with their region?
Yes,
Good
please.
question.
Thank you.
Good question. That's it. Yes, and I have a good answer. Yes. Thank you. The question was, for Drupal certified partners outside the U.S. and Europe, are we adjusting the financial sponsorship amount? And it's yes, we are. We will do that. It's based on where your company derives most of its business from. So if you're located in a country, but you do a lot of your business in the U.S., then you're going to pay U.S. rates. But when I was in, when we were in Lisbon and last year in DrupalCon Europe, there are some companies that are small companies that only operate in Portugal. Okay, so we're adjusting it for either the Big Mac, based on the Big Mac index. If you don't know what that is, that's the economist thing. That or the OECD's cost of living. The Big Mac index doesn't have every country on it. So we will, if your primary market is a lower cost of living country, we will adjust that down. Yeah. And we will never adjust up. So I know there are some countries that are even more expensive than the US, but we won't adjust up.
And I've been I've been proactively kind of reaching out to folks as they're renewing this year. So that's pretty new, but it's been going well. And the next slide I have is actually talking more about DrupalCon, but I wanted to pause here and open it up for some more questions or discussions.
Yep. And in particular, I'd like to hear, I really want these things to be dialogues. I would like to hear if your company has not renewed yet, and what is compelling, what do you need from us to help make the case to management, senior management owners in your company to join the program? So I'd really like to, if there's roadblocks or what you need, how we can help with that.
Big Mac's really expensive in Norway.
Shoot, I would have liked.
Owen's looking at the Big Mac index. Don't go to Norway to buy a Big Mac.
And Uruguay is strange.
I know. I'm not sure what that is. So it's, if you want to nerd out on it, it's the cost of beef, I think. The raw costs and the labor costs vary a lot. You think it's all labor, but it's actually some of the raw costs.
How do you manage the case when in a company like developers are not full-time? For example, in my company there is many developers who are not full-time, but they are listed in Drupal.org.
So in terms of, if your question has to do with the number of employees, we would like to have a conversation on that. We specifically said employees and full-time contractors because we know some people have a business model where they have almost no employees. They're all contractors, and but if they're full-time, I don't think we've run into that, but that's where Yitka or Kelly could have a conversation with you. I think there's a way to work it out. If you have 50 part-time, is that equal to 25 full-time or something? Like, our goal is not to be rigid or hard. We just kind of want to make it proportional to the size of the company and be fair. So if your intent is I want to be a DCP, my company is committed to this, then we'll work with you to try to figure out what's the right way to measure your company's size. Thank you. That's a good question.
Yes, Christine.
Right here and then.
Okay, so from Norway. So one of the problems, also challenges that we have, of course, is that there aren't many Drupal shops in Norway. The market isn't that big. And we are not getting any, well, not that many leads from other countries than Norway. Meaning if you would select a Drupal partner, in Norway you would choose us anyway, because there aren't that many to choose from. So that's, you were asking if there are some blockers, and that's an actual blocker. Although definitely have seen now that on the profile that we would qualify for silver at least. So, and it is important for us, but that's like the market problem as well, I guess.
Yeah, it's and that's a issue that we're have to evolve on a little bit. But let me give you my perspective on that, because what I would ask companies is to don't start from a position of leads and business generation. Start from, does your company want to be seen as a contributor back to Drupal? And then from that, we will do as much as we can to drive that recognition, which we think will drive good business and leads. It's about being a good citizen to the Drupal community. I get the fact that it's not, so if you look at this purely as marketing, you'll always be a little bit unsatisfied.
I can speak to that from our experience in Australia. So there's a few Drupal specialist shops that get the bulk of the Drupal work. But then our really big competitors are the Deloittes and Accentures. And they'll be going into big government departments pitching Drupal projects, but with no connection back to the community. And so when us as a small company turns up and says, well, we're a top Drupal certified partner, then the next question to Accenture is, well, why aren't you a Drupal certified partner? And it puts them on the back foot. And we've definitely won projects from those big companies on the basis of having a very strong reputation in the project. We can talk about being on the security team and absolutely, yeah. I think there was tens of millions of dollars going through Deloitte and Accenture. Most of the work being outsourced to their Indian teams. But for us to be able to walk in and say, well, we're certified, this is the criteria we meet, we're part of the Drupal security team, we're core contributors, etc., then that elevates the perception of us as a company compared to the big competitors.
I'm just going to piggyback off of that a little bit because at least in Australian government, I don't know about in US or other places, but some of the RFQs or RFPs or whatever you want to call them, they'll actually say, what are your contributions? They'll actually specifically ask you to prove that you've contributed. And this is a fantastic way to say, yes, I have. Here's proof. You can go to this URL and you can see me. I'm in the top 10. I'm in the top 20. And that is a really concrete way to, so I don't know, maybe your government doesn't do that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. On an unrelated note, but so there's also a Drupal Slack channel. I don't know, since these are maybe more of the leaders of these groups, I'm not sure how many people are aware, but this contribution feedback channel in the Drupal Slack where you see not such great behavior in the community about gaming and all that, and that's a place that I live a lot, and some of us do. I know some people here do, and that has been very, very frustrating for a lot of people. And I know there are some policies in place and some process, but it still feels a little haphazard, I guess, of how these people who seem to be trying to abuse the system keep abusing it. And I know there's talk about, they're going to get, maybe off the list and all that. But I guess a question back to you is, how formalized is, that kind of aspect of it, of trying to disincentivize that kind of behavior?
Well, we have a process for it. So we do need to be notified. Sometimes maybe we're not notified right away, so don't feel like just continue to notify us. But so our Yika is very into the weeds on that, but Tim Lennon, our CTO, will let us know. He will first talk to them, account managers will reach out, and then we will hold trainings with them. And a lot of times you will be surprised, but this is true, they were like, oh, is this not good? Should we not be doing this? So it is training. a lot of them, I mean, Yika, what else would you have to say? Like, we do try to, we like keep following up. If they're on our radar, they stay on our radar. And I do know that they won't stop for a while, but they will continue to be like monitored and bothered and cut off. But what else do you think, Yika?
And
Sometimes also we hear that they change onboarding practices, that they start to actually teach the right way from the beginning. It just takes a longer time. But we are being heard. It's just,
and I think, you know, the other thing is that I believe the rankings are based on weighted contributions, which takes strategic initiatives over just spelling errors and different things. So if there are people that are trying to game it by low impact stuff, probably are not being as successful. One, and then two, I would add, I mean, yes, this is an evolution for us too. We're making the credit system more important. It matters now a lot more. So we have to also up our game internally about how we track this, how we police it, and all that. We've dealt with at least 2 cases in the last few months, and the companies were very responsive. But yes, keep us like, we need to keep doing more. We need to hear about it.
To be done, right?
It just needs to be a more, an easier way, because right now it's just in the Slack channel.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, here's one, and just, I guess maybe making it a little more formal, like when because someone will be like, oh, well, I opened an issue. Well, I mean, you don't even, someone else might not even know that they can do that, or, try to, we want people to do this for good reasons and not just because they're trying to, get up in the ranking and stuff.
No, that's a good point. We can formalize it.
Add something quickly. So the perception of that problem is much smaller than it actually is. So there has been analysis, and it's like, okay, well, maybe under 5% of credits have been done in that way. When we initially started talking about this program in the board, the concept was it's a carrot, not a stick. We want people to be contributing in any way, and if they're incentivized to do contribution on the things that are more important, if they're already got a practice in place for doing little contributions that aren't that important with a little bit of education and some carrot, then their behaviour will change quite quickly, and I think you've seen that happen.
So one note. So totally agree, but so I'm very connected with the developing community and the maintainers who find this type of contribution very noisy, very distracting, and it makes it really hard for them to do their proactive contribution. So although it may be a small number of bad actors, the impact can actually be more frustrating for the people who are doing the work than it may appear if you just look at the numbers.
That's a good point. There's a question over there.
Hi. So I'm coming at this question as a small business owner and how I don't fit. I've got a Drupal.org account. I'm 16 years old, and I've implemented Drupal at Ivy League universities and various other well-known nonprofits and brought it into corporate spaces, and I just can't compete. I'm not looking to compete with larger name agencies who can throw whole teams at problems, but I did a very comfortable 6 figures annually revenue last few years and do this work, and I look at these charts and I say I don't want to be at the list perceived as though I could do like, oh, we're going to rebuild whitehouse.gov or something like that, But there are so many clients in the middle of the long tail that I can attract where my budget points come in, but I can't see my name on that list, even though like I've been part of this community for a really long time. As an individual, I contribute. I pay the membership fees, and my company pays their membership fees. So like I'm happy to do that, and I want to do that. I want to support the project. It's made me very sustainable in my lifestyle and my what I do, and I love it. But I feel like there's a lot of problems in this structure for the smaller agencies who at least want to be able to say, hey, I'm on this list also because I'm part of this community. So.
Will you expand on what part is it your organization has not contributed 150, or do you think you can't?
I have 11 contribution points, and when I see 150, I'm just like, do I need to hire someone full time to do that? Just do that, and I to what was commented earlier about the Slack channel reporting, like people just converting readme.txt to readme.md files You know, that's not contribution, you know, and yet their numbers, you know, through the roof because those get through and it counts. It's work that needs to be done, but it's like, I can't do that.
How many developers do you have? Now I'm just like investigating.
Yeah, I'm the only full-time employee,
Okay.
but I have 3 subcontractors that, you know, are anywhere between 20 to 40 hours a month based on the scale of work, and sometimes more based on project work.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Please, yeah. I love to hear discussion.
So also just speaking from experience, so we're a very small agency, 20 people, not micro, but not big. And so we put a lot of effort in our early days to have contribution policies in place. And a big part of that is any work that we're doing for clients is automatically contributed back. So if we patch a module for a client project, I think it says in our contract, we will automatically contribute that back, and the client has no say in that. It's like, you're using open source software, we're fixing something on your behalf. The process of working with Drupal is to contribute that back, and I would say 25 to 30% of our credits are client funded. And we'll be very open with clients as well around that. So if they're trying to build something completely new, something to integrate with a system that hasn't been integrated with before, the conversation is, we will build this, but we will contribute that back as part of the process. And then the other model that we have is that we have a proportion of our employees and our contractors' time that can be used towards contribution. That's relatively unstructured, but there's this notional 10 to 20% of your time can go towards contribution if you've got things to work on. And once it's embedded at a policy level within the company, this is the way that we do business, it flows on from there quite quickly. And there's a blog post where I go into a lot of detail about how we do it. And
I will share that.
Feel free to copy
I said that a little.
It's not as much as a question as I just wanted to second what Owen said, that contribution, we do exactly the same thing. Everything we do for a client goes back to Drupal.org. So it's not even extra resource that we have to spend to earn credits. It's just part of delivering the project to the client. But I also wanted to go back to what is the return on investment for us as a certified partner. We are a small company as well, based in Germany, and we don't really expect revenue as a return for being a partner. I see it more from a commercial point of view, like if the DA wasn't there providing the services to us as a community, I couldn't run my business. So as a small company with 1,500 a year, that's a very small contribution to, you know, actually relying my business on an infrastructure that I get from the DA for free, and hopefully soon I even get even more than that. I get a lot of marketing as well. So I just see that as, you know, return is already there even before I spend my contribution money. So I just want to encourage everybody to probably see it more like, you know, we have to make sure the DA can continue to provide those services, because otherwise we are screwed.
Thank you.
Yeah, in my case, I'm pretty similar to your. Like, I'm doing a lot of development by myself, but since I was impressed about my models, I want them to be like available for other people. I hired a few developers to help me with the contributions. And actually, and also one kind of life hack, use cases gives you 10 credits per each. So it's also like a good, yeah, good use cases, yes.
I love the general concept that we're trying to promote and recognize the organizations that give the most back to Drupal as a whole. There was a very smart person, I don't know who said, all models are flawed, are wrong in some way, but some models are useful. And I apologize in advance because I'm going to complain and try and form it as a question. But at Fork Kitchens, about half of our contributions goes to stuff that can be tracked in this system, and about half isn't. It's through the Emulsify project, which isn't going to work well to host on Drupal.org. Is there a way that we can recognize those kinds of contributions that don't fit well to be tracked on Drupal.org?
I would say I would like to know more. We have started that process with events, so events weren't counted previously and they are now, so there is definitely room for improvement. So I'd love to know more about what you were just talking about, and I can ask CTO Tim Lennon, that's him. But I think there's I think there's a ways to improve, and I appreciate it, the suggestion.
Let me just ask a question that will reveal my ignorance. What's the Emulsified project? Is that a Drupal-based project, or is that supportive but not the same thing? Like, for instance, like you don't get credit for helping Symfony out or PHP. You don't get credit in our system for that. But you can be helping Drupal by helping either of those, right?
Yeah, so Emulsify is a design system to integrate Storybook with 90% Drupal, but also with WordPress.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, let's talk to Tim about that. It's an interesting concept. Again, we're going to learn about our model, our credit system, and what, how we have to harden it, but also how maybe we have to adjust it. Well, my question on that would be like, okay, how are we helping measure the good of Drupal by giving you credit on the Emulsify project? And maybe it's there, and if it's there, we should find a way to accommodate it.
Great.
Well, in that same vein, as far as the weights in the weighted contributions, are you guys happy with how those are set up? Because as I understand it, so Drupal core 10 points, every 100,000 installs is worth an extra point, right? There are maybe 20 modules that have more than 200,000 installs, as far as I can see, assuming we're using the project update results that get reported. Most of which are very old, stable modules that probably don't, token and redirect and maybe the exception of web form, but so it's really a order of magnitude if you contribute to core. If you're not contributing to core, it's worth a tenth of what it is if you're contributing to core, which may be what we want. I'm a maintainer of the core migration system. I do a lot with core. That might be good, but I do hear from a lot of people that do a lot of valid contributions to smaller modules, or not even small modules, because again, there's only about 20 or so that would ever have more than 1 point or one weighted credit. So I was just wondering if there's any thought on whether that's balanced the way that you want it, or if that's intentional, or if that's something maybe we should, those numbers were set also, back in Drupal 7, there was a little bit more adoption.
Right.
So I'm wondering if those need to be revisited, or if they're set up the way that you want to intentionally to gear people towards core contributions and the strategic initiatives, which also count for 10.
So what I like about this conversation is we're getting into the areas about the credit system that I don't have any expertise in. But what's good about that is that, like, okay, people are paying attention. Like, now the credit system is mattering more in a sense, and people are asking questions about, like, is it balanced the right way? So what I can say is, certainly the way it has been set up is very intentional. I'm going to go on a limb here and say I don't think we've reviewed it in the last 3 or 4 months since rolling this out. And now that it's getting more attention and the credits matter more, I think there's an opportunity to say, is it balanced the way we want it to be balanced? But it's not. But it was set up intentionally originally. Obviously, we've gotten some questions, and every time I go to Tim Lennon, our CTO, and his team, they will look into, like, yeah, this is being calculated the right way, or no, we found this bug, or so those issues are being exposed. I think your global question is a good one too. That what you want is that much above everything. Right. Yep, I think that's a great thing for us to reevaluate, and with Starshot, right? What's the impact on Starshot, right? So on that, so there will, I'm confident to say there will be definitely tweaking of the credit system and I would, in these forums and other forums, email Yitka and Kelly, like especially if you have specific questions or whatever, so that we can look at that part of the system and say, is this doing it the way we want it to be done?
So one question I've got, for a multitude of reasons, largely legally, contractually, we're actually not allowed to contribute a lot of our work back. We can try to renegotiate contracts and do that type of stuff, but our clients are like fairly locked down in our contributions. Is there a way that a company, or could there be a way that a company says, hey, we're going to take steps to change that? We meet all the other criteria. We'll do all the other things. Can we pledge for like a 1-year grace period to like bring folks in? And if you're like, hey, you don't meet the muster after a year, back out you go. Is there a system that we could do something like that? Because otherwise, like, I'd love to be a contributing partner, but I'm gonna have to wait a whole year in order to like garner credits and do all that type of stuff to hit the status that we'd want to hit.
We have not had that one yet.
Yeah, that's a new one. So what we did was, for the first quarter of this year, we had people could renew and stay under the old rules and stay for a year. And we did that intentionally to give like people, and we kind of encourage people, rush to renew, because then you can get the year grace period to move on. Certainly willing to talk to you about those things, and if there's a commitment. Look, my main goal is if there's a company that's like, hey, we want to, we're doing this for the right reasons, we want to do it, we just got to get there, and we have these structural issues that keep us from getting there, then, if we can come up with a plan, we want to work with that. But if it's a long term, like we don't like this idea, or we're never going to want to, operate at this level, and we're just trying to squeeze more out, then I'm not so interested, Right.
So adding to that one there, like contractual things is a big one, but like others were saying earlier, contributing back doesn't mean contributing back the IP of the contracts. We have lots of contracts like that as well. We still contribute back on those all the time because you're in the license of Drupal that they're using. And if you're contributing back not the IP of their business things, but you're actually contributing to the module you're already using, that actually gets around a lot of those pretty readily and lets you still contribute back, because the license of Drupal protect you that way a lot more.
Yeah. There's intricacies.
This sounds like a webinar we could probably have or something.
Sounds like a webinar.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I guess going back a little bit to the emulsify sort of model, but there are a number of Drupal modules that like to work in the GitHub space rather than on Drupal.org. And that's a valid example of, they're contributing and actually people are still using that code, and it's just that it's not happening in the infrastructure, in the D.O infrastructure. So I don't really know how to solve that. And the only way that we've dealt with it before for projects is we actually pulled from Drupal from GitHub and actually went back to just having all the issues in Drupal.org. And if someone brings up an issue there, we're bringing it back. And it's a little bit cumbersome, to have to do that kind of management and that kind of mirroring between the two systems. So
Yitka had.
Actually, I've worked with a different partner on this very same issue. What they do, they send me the list of their repositories, like a link to them, and I just award the credits under special programs just for that until we have it finally integrated. So,
Wow. I didn't know we were doing that.
And there is, correct me if I'm wrong, there's quite a lot of work happening about how the credit system can be integrated into GitLab.
Yes.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think GitLab are actually looking at the credit system as something that they could potentially roll out to all their customers for different projects. So, yeah.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left, so I wanted to say the last thing about we're DrupalCon all over the place these days. Yitka is the lead for selling DrupalCon sponsorships in Barcelona. We would love to have any of your organizations who are interested in a booth or a non-booth just to support the community and do anything we have a list of, I can't think of anything right now, Yitka.
Anyone?
That. especially for certified partners, like the message, we're certified, we support contribution in Barcelona, would be amazing.
And one of the benefits, correct me if I'm wrong, of being a certified partner is you get first choice at the sponsorships. So we open them up to certified partners first, and then more broadly.
And you get 10% discount on core. If you want to do it.
Like a booth, yeah. Do you have a question back there? Did you want to say anything? That's okay. I didn't mean to. Sorry, I thought you were. Oh, it's okay. Second, DrupalCon Singapore, we just announced it today. It's going to be about the last week of November, I think. And so this one is being organized similarly to how we have a company, Quoni, who organizes Europe. This one is being organized by, like, who is it actually?
So, yeah, what's that? Yeah, Linux Australia.
Yes, thank you.
We've partnered with Linux Australia.
Yes.
To basically what we do at the DA is we license the DrupalCon brand, so they're allowed to use it, and then we put certain requirements on it so that the event meets certain requirements, like it has to have a code of conduct, has to have a diversity policy, et cetera, et cetera. And then again, wrapping up our kind of focus on that part of the globe, we know there's a lot of partners that can't make it to North America or Europe, but we think we can grow excitement for Drupal from Japan, Vietnam, India, Singapore, Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, China. So, and that's November 19th to the 21st. So for U.S. folks, that's the week before Thanksgiving. Don't worry. The week before, it was going to be the week of. I was thinking, it's kind of tough but it'll be our first one ever in Singapore. I know there's a DrupalCon Mumbai in 2016. Was there one in Sydney? 2013? Okay, good. So this is our third DrupalCon in that part of the globe, first one in Singapore.
And then Atlanta, we announced today, and we already opened sponsorship sales. So if you're interested in Atlanta, we have the sign-up sheet. I've already got 2 on board. I'm very excited, especially it's in March. So we typically sell a certain amount of months out. And so we're getting it started already. So if you're interested, come to the DA booth. I would love to get you signed up for booth priority, good spots. And we thank you all for coming. It was nice to see everyone. Happy DrupalCon. And Yika and I are always available on the internet. We can get him to come too, so let us know. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.